Hi there, my name is Heather McKay and I own McKay's Photography out of Rochester, New York. I've been a wedding photographer since 2002. So I have lots of opinions about albums versus the digital files and whether they should be in your packages or not. What I find is most photographers that I talk to are so overwhelmed with the idea of even offering albums, much less creating them for every single client. So what got me started in offering wedding albums was two things. One was my first year of being fully self-employed when I quit my job. I had saved up quite a bit of money to get me through my first winter. If you're listening and you know where Rochester, New York is, we have long, snowy winters here. So wedding season is probably, May through October, and those are the prime wedding months. So what I found was my second winter of being self-employed was that I couldn't just burn through savings and not do anything. So what happened was I came up with the idea of offering my albums to my wedding clients during the winter. So the first year I called it a winter album special. And I'll get into the basics of that and the details of it as well in a minute. But that's basically where I came up with this system of selling albums and making profit and making them worth my time. So the other thing I want to talk about with albums, when photographers don't think about who these albums are for. It's not for your bride and groom. It's not even just to make a profit. You are creating this for your clients' future children and their future children. My parents, these are my parents right here on the screen, my mom and dad, they didn't have a wedding photographer. They didn't have any money when they got married. I mean, back in the day, weddings weren't what they are now. My parents got married at 19 and 20. They were knocked up. I really wish we had photos of all of the disapproving faces in that room when they got married. We don't have any. My dad's friend took about 2 rolls of black and white film, and that's all we have. So for me, as a child of these two, I really wish I had photos. I want to see how young they looked. I see them like I see them in this photo where they're old. Wedding albums are really this time capsule, this moment in time for your clients and for their children and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I just implore you, as you go through my webinar today with all the details and all the math I'm going to make you do and all this kind of stuff, but just keep in mind who this is for. It's not just for you and it's not just for your client. It's also for future generations. If you take that in mind, this is the word you need to use all day long in everything you have to type up and talk about, your blog posts or on Instagram. I want you to use one word all the time when you're talking about albums and books. Heirloom. This is an heirloom for future generations. That word helps snap your clients out of just I got to hire a wedding photographer today. That's my job today. I need to lock in a photographer. If you start using the word heirloom, everything will change. It snaps your clients out of the wedding planning process and really makes it real. The other thing it does is if you're talking about this heirloom quality wedding album and you're talking about their heirloom book or whatever, over time, after their wedding and you've already photographed their wedding and now you're selling them this album, if you use that word heirloom, it also helps you upsell because people remember that this book is for them. This book is for their marriage. This book is for their family. It's not just something to get done as, we need to do our album. I really am very clear with my couples that the type of photos that go in the book are because it's an heirloom. That stuff is really important. So if you use this word, heirloom, it helps snap everybody out of just the moment of getting married. The other thing is, with this word heirloom that really draws me in, is it really helps you snap out of the whole digital files question. So obviously I get that question all the time, just like you do, of, hey, do you give out the digital files? No, guess what? I don't, because they're not an heirloom. You're hiring a professional photographer to document this moment. You're spending a crap ton of money on your wedding. Why would you want digital files? I mean, think about it. Digital files are going to go on Facebook without even tagging me, with no link to me or my business. And then the digital files will last maybe 3 to 5 years if they don't get corrupted. Clients aren't very good about backing up their stuff. You're probably not good at backing up your stuff. I mean, do you have a redundant hard drive set up? Does your client have one? Are you backing your stuff up to the cloud? Probably not. So are your clients doing that? Probably not. So my point that I really want you to take out today from this whole webinar is to please stop giving out the digital files. Hopefully by the end of this you will agree with me that they are a terrible idea. But also, more importantly, you're not taking care of your client. You're not taking care of their best interest. You're dumping the work of the album on them, which they'll never do, because if you aren't motivated to do it by money for them, how the heck are they supposed to sit down and put an album together? They're not going to. If you can't sit, obviously you're watching this webinar today, so I'm applauding you that you are actually investing in your business and wanting to tackle this project. But the reason you haven't done it in the past, am I right, is because it's so overwhelming. There's so many album companies, there's so many quality differences, like how do you know what to offer, how do you know what to price it, then how do you sell it? Imagine giving yourself a 25% raise. That's what you can do with the power of selling heirloom quality wedding albums to your clients. So let's get started. First thing I want to talk about is, again, please stop giving out the digital files. I know just saying that flippantly is probably making some of you upset, but really think about it. I really want you to think about the digital files. And why do you offer them? You probably offer them like everybody else because clients want them, because clients ask, right? But listen to this. Your clients don't know what else to ask. Magazines and blogs, they tell them to ask for these things. You know what else tells them to ask for the digital files? Your price list. The fact that you say that you include it on your price list, you're adding value to something that has no value. So if we as professional photographers just immediately took that off of the price list, you can still give them out for free if you really want to. If you really disagree with everything I'm going to say today, that's great. That's fine. It's your prerogative. You can run your business how you want. But I just think about that. Just take it off your price list and wait until they actually ask you, right? Okay, so that's one way to do it. The next way that you can do it is you can put it on there as a line item with a price. And I'm going to get into that technique in a minute because I really want you to think about it. What do I do personally when somebody asks me if I give out the files? I do a standard sales technique when I ask them a question. I don't answer it with my thought process and all the things I just told you. What I say back when they ask me, hey, do you give out the digital files? My question back to them is, what are you going to do with them? I kid you not, that question snaps them out of everything because they kind of don't know. They've just been told all over the place to ask for the files. They probably want them on their phone and they probably want them on Facebook. But again, do they need all 900 pictures or however many pictures you deliver? No, they really don't. They don't need all those photos online. Really, of the shoes or whatever, the rings. So what I do instead is I put all of my photos on my blog, not all my photos, my favorite photos, 60 photos from the wedding day. I put those on my blog right after the wedding. Strike when the iron is hot. I'll do it. I'll time it so that they're sitting in the airport going on their honeymoon with nothing to do but wait for that flight. And I'll time it so that that blog goes live when they're sitting in the airport. It blows up their phone. I tell you, there's no better way to get traffic to your website than if you blog the highlights of the day a couple days after the wedding. Week max. The other thing that does is it burns those 60 photos into their memory. So those are now their favorite photos. And the photos I put on my blog are all the ones that end up in the album. So just think about the power of that I'm putting them on a blog for them, basically in an album format. I tell a story, I kind of start from the beginning of the day, I try to make sure all the key players are, represented on my blog post, but I don't just put up one teaser like most photographers do. I'll do a whole, my highlights of the whole day, like I said. So I love that because they share the heck out of it. They love it. They love reading my writing about what it was like to be there. I try to throw a little behind the scenes kind of stuff in there, and they love that. So that's one thing I do for them. And I'll explain all this when they're trying to book me and they're asking me this question about the digital files. The other thing I'll do is I'll take those same photos that go on my blog, the 60 photos or whatever I put up, depends on the wedding. I'll take those, and about a week after my blog post, I'll put all those photos on Facebook for them. Think about the power of that. They're coming from my business page, McKay's photography page on Facebook. I'll tag the bride and groom, and maybe, bridal party if I become friends with any of them on Facebook. And then they'll tag everybody else. So those photos go viral on Facebook, and I've solved this problem. They can use my blog post or the Facebook photos on their phone at any time. They can show them online that way anytime. So if you ever want to say no to someone, that's the way to do it, is give them other options. So what I personally do is those two things and one last thing. The other thing I'll do is when we're finished with the wedding album and I'm delivering the wedding album, that's when I give out the digital files. So I'm not actually saying no, I don't give out files. That's not technically true. Yes, you will get your files upon completion of your heirloom wedding album. It's that simple. It's really that simple. And I can tell you that I have 2 or 3 digital file USB drives sitting in my drawer because the clients never picked them up. Because by then they don't need them. By then they've already purchased everything they're going to purchase. They've already printed everything they're going to print. Everything's in the album that's amazing. So think about it in like corporate America terms, right? So you have lose-lose is you're giving the digital clients to your client. You're not creating an album for them. They're never going to create an album. You're losing money. You're also losing control of your images. You're also losing quality control. They might throw a filter on it on Instagram and piss you off, right? You don't know if they're ever going to tag it. They could sell the photos, whatever. So that's a lose-lose situation. Nobody in this scenario of giving out the digital files for free is winning. A lose-win situation is you sell the digital files. So like I said a few minutes ago, if you put a digital files as a line item on your price list for like, let's say $600. So at least you're making $600 and you still don't have to do the work of the album. That's definitely better. Honestly, I'd rather you do that because at least you're making something, right? And it's all profit, right? I mean, a USB drive is probably $30. So that's one option, but they still don't have an album. And I can just tell you from doing this for 15 years, my clients who I push albums hard, and I talk to them all the time about albums, my clients that have bought the digital files, they still don't have an album. Even with me pressuring them and they know that it's important to me, they still haven't done an album. They haven't done one on their own and they haven't come to me to do it. I've even had some in their packages with the album was in the package, the digital files is in the package, and those customers still will not approve their album and get it printed. They just don't, it takes all of that motivation out. The win-win solution is to give the digital files to the client upon completion of the album. That's the win-win scenario. And however you want to price it after you've watched my webinar today and however you want to bundle it and whether you want it in packages or not, that's all up to you and your own whatever. You figure it out. We're going to go through what I do today, which is why you're here. And you can, take what works for you and run with it. But I just really ask you to, at minimum, put a price tag on those files. Even if you still want to give out the files for now, put it as a line item price and tell them they're for free. Like tell them you're gifting them to them. So at least you're putting a price tag on it. So let me give you an example. I have, let's say, you've got your digital files on your price list for $600. And you sell a wedding album for like $2,000. I've seen my clients do that math in their head in front of me. They literally think about the fact they're getting their digital files that are worth $600, and they take that price off the album. It's crazy. So they're thinking, I'm selling them a $2,000 album, but in their mind, they're taking off $600 because they're getting 2 things for that price. Does that make sense? Anytime you want to say no to your client, find a way to say yes, but in a different way so that you both have a win. So I don't give out the files right away, but you do get them with a wedding album. Win-win, right? Anytime you have a problem, like for me, again, I didn't want to give out the digital files, so I thought around the problem and figured out a way to give them what they want or what they think they want without actually having to give it to them. You want to be a trendsetter and not a follower? Like, it's not hurt me. It's made it better. Like, I get doctors because they're too busy. They know they will never do a wedding album. So they love that I don't give out the files and because I want to do an album. That's done deal. Lawyers, doctors, people who are professionals and they're busy, they love that I'll do this scrap for them. They don't want to do it. They don't care. They're never going to sit down and do it, and they know it. So they hire me because I'm a professional. They trust my judgment. It makes it a lot easier. And so I have no problem being a trendsetter and not a follower. Okay, be yourself and be your brand. What do you personally like? Don't try to think about what you're supposed to do. Do what you want to do, and you will just find, naturally, you'll find those clients that also agree with you. Show what you want to sell, not what you're already selling. Show what you want to sell. Because then that's setting an expectation, right? Show big to sell big. You're not going to sell big if you don't show big. It's just the way it goes. Simplify everything. I don't bring out my 20 different sample albums in the first consult. That's too many. It's too much for them to look through. I'll bring a big album and I'll show them a parent album. That's it. Keep it simple. Otherwise, you overwhelm them. And my word of the day, heirloom. Just don't forget who you're doing it for. And when you show them their album, that moment is amazing. Looking through that album the very first time with them is so much fun. Even myself, when I get it in, I look through it like 10 times because your work is perfect. It's a perfectly curated book of the best images from the day, color corrected, retouched, amazing. You'll feel like a better photographer when you do wedding albums. Honestly, it will make you feel so much more complete too, to finish this process with your couples. I mean, look at this one. They're in there, they take their shoes off and they're hanging out and just noticing all this stuff in the book they never noticed before. It's so much fun. It's so much fun to stand back, be quiet, and I let them look through their book. And I love seeing what they see and what they resonate with because that helps me be a better photographer. But most importantly, is this a portfolio for yourself? So I feel like $1,000,000 myself by looking through their wedding album because it's perfectly curated photos. And that's it. I hope you enjoy. I hope it made it simple for you. I really want to hear how you do with your first album sale. So leave me a comment. Leave me a link on my YouTube channel when you see, send me an email, connect with me, show me your albums that you've done, tell me how your couples feel. I love hearing stories about clients and their wedding album reactions, and I really want to hear how this has helped you make better decisions for your business and streamline the process. And in the meantime, if I have your email, then you'll find out about my masterclass, the next masterclass, which is album designing, and how to price for your wedding. Okay, and that's it. Have a great day.